Hello, my friends in film fandom, wherever you may be and however you may be watching. Thank you so much for giving us just a little bit of your time. Boy, a pretty interesting, very emotional flashback episode of The Last of Us. Not my favorite episode, but still plenty of substance here. Here to go into it with us tonight are my good friends, our own little power couple of Grim Tuesday and Tim Septim. How's it going with you guys?
Oh, it's going.
Yeah.
It's going.
I was going to say, I mean, you can tell what shirt I'm wearing, despite my shirt saying they live. Not many people live in this series, unfortunately. So, like I said, don't get attached to anybody.
Like I said, everybody dies. It's so much more exciting when it's one of those shows where you're like, everybody's going to die. It's just a matter of when, how exciting it's going to be, that kind of thing.
I think somebody in this very episode says some just get there faster than others.
True. There is a little bit of odd wisdom coming from the younger generation of this world right now. But boy, what an episode to go into. Again, not my favorite episode. A lot of substance. Again, I'm starting to see why, because I was talking to American Werewolf from New Jersey today, and he finally just tapped out of the show. He was just like, it's not enough action for me. It's just too much character. And this is the first episode where I've kind of started to understand a little more where he's coming from. Don't get me wrong. I love the character work. I love the writing. I love the acting. But there does seem to be a bit of an imbalance towards the storytelling, and they're not mixing in a lot of the action. I'm starting to see where he's coming from. I still like the show a lot. I still think it's really, really good. But let's break down kind of where we start in the episode. Where we start is, obviously, we left the last episode with Joel laying on the ground after being wounded, stabbed in the belly by that broken bat, after being attacked by by the gang of random dudes that were walking around the college. And she's managed to find a house for them to kind of hold up in. And Joel just tells her, I mean, he feels like he's running out of time. So he says, you need to get north. You need to get back to Tommy and let him protect you. Let him make sure you're going to be good from now on. Kind of Joel's worst fear coming true, what he was even talking about in the last episode. Definitely that was on display here as well. But as she's getting ready to leave and walk out, that's when starts this flashback of a character that we've been wanting to see for a long time now, and that's Riley. We finally get kind of an examination of what got Ellie here. Obviously, we get to see during this episode how she contracted the fungus in the first place. But again, a lot of great character growth and a big relationship that we haven't really seen the likes of since episode 3, and that great episode. I don't know. What are some of your guys' general thoughts on the episode? Kind of how it started off with, getting into the flashback and kind of where we find Joel.
I played the game, don't. So.
Well, I kind of sort of knew that there was. I knew Joel wasn't going to die in this episode. So I was wondering where it was going to go. I guess I wasn't necessarily expecting a flashback, but you were saying stuff about it being the DLC of the game. Mm-hmm. So I thought maybe, backstory. So I kind of had an idea where it was going, but not really.
I mean, it was nice to see that. I mean, it's kind of inherent in the title when it said Left Behind. It's like, if that's the name of the DLC, which is the backstory of how Ellie got bit and how it kind of explores her relationship with Riley. And then unfortunately, I mean, to that point, though, Ellie doesn't know she's immune yet. So to both of them, they think they're just going to die. And it's just kind of this unfortunate circumstance that becomes of them, because of course we can't have nice things in the apocalypse. As soon as they have a nice moment, they know they feel the same way about each other, then it's got to be ruined, of course. I don't remember where it is in the game, but I think it's somewhere where she tries to tell Joel, she's like, she tells him about Riley. She said, she repeated the line, let's just be poetic and lose our minds together. And she starts to break down. She's like, I'm still waiting my turn. And you can hear it in her voice. It hurts. So good thing we got to see that now.
Yeah, it was interesting to watch this play out again, because it's easy to know just what Ellie had been through, but now being able to see it, the visual representation of kind of that really important part of her journey, obviously not just getting infected, but Riley is such a big influence on her life and who she is as a person. It was really good to kind of see that fleshed out, so to speak, in real life visually, so that we can kind of attach ourselves to this character, which is already dead. But again, kind of like Frank. One of the interesting things about this is it was kind of the antipode, so to speak, of what we got with Frank and Bill. We got to see Frank and Bill kind of through the course of that one episode. They meet, they get their happy life together, and then we see the ending of it. They kind of got that second chance. This was kind of the opposite of that. The real tragedy of this episode is that we finally get to see that burgeoning teenage love. This whole episode was a first date.
Mm-hmm.
It was that first date, teenage love. It was so romantic. I love the coming of age stuff. You guys know that. And that was kind of a lot of the feel that I got from this episode.
Mm-hmm.
But instead of being able to explore that at all past the beginning, she gets a little taste of it, and it's all taken away from her almost literally moments later. But of course, this whole thing takes place. Them going into the mall, having their little fun, having that one moment where they first kiss, they realize the feelings are mutual, then the attack from the infected, the bite, and then it all gets taken away from them as soon as they get a chance to kind of realize it. There was kind of a beautiful tragedy in this that was the opposite of what we got with Bill and Frank. Did that cause it to hit you guys a little bit differently?
I mean, I cried in both episodes.
I don't want to say I saw it coming, but I'm just,
it's a different kind of emotional reaction, though, from the Bill and Frank episode. It was like a crying because the whole thing was so beautiful and they went out together in a way, and then this where it was just immediately ripped, and knowing that Ellie survived, and who knows how long she waited there with Riley. Did she wait till she obviously she's not turning, she's expecting to turn. I just wonder how long she waited with her, or what happened after that, because obviously Riley turned. What happened to what was Riley?
I got the game in there if you want to play.
I mean, I don't know if they explore any more of that in this show or not, but those were some of my questions. It's a different emotional reaction, but similar at the same time.
Yeah, with Bill and Frank, they got to at least, that was their second chance, weirdly, at the end of the world, and they got to live out their lives together. Whereas, with Ellie and Riley, like, they didn't even get a chance to really start, which is all the more tragic. They didn't even get to get past that. And I was gonna say a second ago, I'm like, it kind of gives, that tense scene between Joel and Ellie where Joel tells her, "You have no idea what loss is," and he probably still is trying to distance himself from her, and he just thinks, well, she's just a kid. Like, what could she have experienced already? And then, well, we see it because she does say, like, look, everyone I've cared for has died except for you, So seeing it, have it, what the impact Riley had on her, it's like, no, she has experienced loss, and that was her moment, because she kind of turned the whole room into a what's that room called? The not a destroy room. It's like,
I know, it was chaos room.
Room, yeah. It was a Halloween store, man, but like
where
still
you just break everything in it.
Yeah. Because she even goes, "There's more stuff over there. You want to break it?" Like, right.
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting too, the difference in the way that they both reacted. It's like, obviously Ellie has that very visceral, violent reaction, whereas Riley was very stoic about the whole thing. It seems like even though they're pretty close in age, I feel like Riley's probably a year or two older. But even though they're
16 and 14,
but even though they're pretty close in age, and even close in so many ways, that there is that couple of years of maturity did really impact the way that they both handled it differently. I mean, how did that stand out to you guys as you were seeing it?
Well, and the thing they mentioned too is, like, this probably is the first time Ellie really truly experienced a loss, especially if somebody's so close to her. But because there was that dialogue that they mentioned that Riley had already lost her parents, so she's probably been through this. So she might have just taken it like I don't know. She's already had it sink in, and she knows there's nothing you can do. And I don't know, maybe she just handled it differently. And Ellie's way was to vent it out by just smashing all the glass, and I mean, either way, that works. It might help you feel a little better.
Yeah, but
no, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think like you said with the age difference, I think also mentioning Riley had a family that she lost. Riley had parents at some point, and from what we've learned, Ellie didn't really have a family at all. I don't really know what her past is, but she doesn't really have a family.
We didn't see Ashley Johnson yet.
Waiting for it. But essentially, it's like one one of these girls had a family and has experienced this loss before. And, you know, everybody deals with grief differently anyways. You know, having that huge loss in her life, having this new loss would just be devastating. Whereas if you've never had anything, all of a sudden you have something and it's immediately taken away from you, I'd be pretty angry too.
Also, in this kind of apocalypse, you're growing up. I mean, do you really get time to?
Do you get time to be
really try to handle or have?
Yeah,
like I said, they're both in their teenage years. Like, you know, how do you really process something like that? Like you said, especially if you had it and then lost it that quick. And again, she doesn't know she's immune, so she's set on thinking, okay, I'm gonna die now. This sucks. Like, you know.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. Well, because one of the big differences between these two characters is that Ellie doesn't really have a connection to the pre-infected existence of the world. I mean, because she's only 14, we're 20 years into this thing, so she wasn't even alive for what was normal in the world before all hell broke loose. Whereas neither did Riley, but she still had her mother around who experienced world pre-chaos, so she could tell the stories of, you know, flying on airplanes and
ice cream trucks,
ice cream trucks, and buying lingerie at Victoria's Secret. So that was kind of funny.
That was great.
But so she had that connection, someone to tell her stories, whereas Ellie probably didn't. And I think it's, you know, I've mentioned it before. There are times in this show where it's like something simple that we take for granted, being able to fly from here to there and little things. She thinks it's such an alien thing. It's so outrageous to her that people went to the moon, whereas, you know, we just read about it on whatever article or watch a YouTube video. It's so normal. It's so outlandish that human beings could do anything like this when, in, you know, the way she's seen the world, they can barely feed themselves, or they have to build these big walls to avoid the infected or whatever. It's a whole different world to her. And that's another big difference between these two characters, I think, is one of the things that kind of brought them together, is there was a maturity and experience level that Ellie was kind of lacking. So there was a bit of a yin and yang there. Not necessarily opposites attract. They did kind of complete each other, to use that old movie term from Jerry Maguire. they did kind of fill in those parts for one another. Yeah, I think the two characters are great together. I'm actually kind of bummed that we're not going to be getting any more. Well, I mean, I'm sure we'll probably get more of Riley in bits and pieces here and there, maybe a couple of flashbacks or a couple of things we didn't see in this that I thought were interesting. I'll get to that in a second. But
you know what? Riley walks so Dina could run. There's still Ellie's gonna find somebody. Don't worry. That's part two.
But, yeah, another thing is, one of the things that struck me as interesting is when they find the dead guy in the hallway as they're on their way to the mall. It is amazing to me that they were so unfazed by that whole thing. And it's like they were even grown up to know that it's like, yeah, he probably spent all the credits he had to get this bottle of liquor and these pills. He's like, well, too bad somebody didn't tell him I'd take them together. And she's like, well, he probably knew what he was doing.
He knew what he was doing.
Right.
It's like he was probably just tired of this life. And he was like, I'm just gonna have a few drinks and check out and, you know, call it a life, because it's never going to change in my lifetime. So that was kind of an element of sadness too. There's probably a lot of people that feel like they're at this point where they're like, why go on? Their reaction to that I thought was really interesting too. They're already so hard at like 14 and 16 years old that coming across a dead body is like, whatever.
Kind of like a Stand By Me moment. I mean, I don't know what you would do if you just saw a dead body, especially in an apocalypse. You kind of, I mean, I don't know. You'd just be kind of like, whoa, what? I mean, I don't know. You'd be looking at it like, oh, that's interesting, and poke it with a stick. See what happens.
Yeah,
it falls to the floors, but you know.
Yeah. Yeah, that was weird too. I'm like, why did that floor cave in again? Because part of me expected to see
conveniently
like
right in front of them.
Yeah, part of me expected to see like a bloater or somebody infected come out of there, but I was like, okay, so the floor fell out from underneath them. I don't really
but you got the good stuff.
Yeah, because I thought that guy was going to turn into, because I know they eventually got bit in the mall. I mean, I knew that was coming at some point. I thought that was going to be that guy at first.
No.
But obviously not.
Yeah, that to me was a very interesting scene. Again, it just showed what these kids are growing up in. I mean, feel kind of lucky that, you know, that we managed to grow up in a place that was fairly devoid of any dead bodies just randomly in hallways as we were walking through apartments and stuff like that. But
there's a local dead guy. Hey, how you doing?
But yeah, let's talk about the wonders that she was going to show her. I thought it was hilarious that she got so blown away by an escalator.
Again, something else you wouldn't have ever known about. She's like, oh my god, the stairs move. Also, to the wonderful theme of "Take on Me" by Aha. Ellie's got good taste in music. As we saw on her bedstand, she's got like some. But what was the third one though? It was.
What was a Pearl Jam song?
Was it Pearl Jam?
Forget the name of the song.
And then some Etta James. So, you know, she got good taste.
Yeah. But yeah, the one of the things I really liked about this really hit my nostalgic button in my heart really well, because I grew up in the '80s when the mall was like the place to be when you were a teenager, and as I've gotten older, obviously the malls have lost their allure to me anyway. But it was so great to like see a teenager amazed by the mall again. It kind of took me back to my 14 to 15-year-old range, where like going to the mall was this fun, cool thing to do. It was kind of I was living vicariously through them at a couple of points, especially the arcade. They don't have arcades anymore. God, I miss arcades.
Yeah,
those
they
were
do.
so
They
fun.
do.
So well,
We're
yeah,
going to one tomorrow.
No, I know.
I'm not talking about like round
coins.
one or something
I'm not
like
talking
that.
about that either.
No.
I'm
There's-
talking about ones with old games.
There's one right in town that's got all old arcade cabinets. I mean, you don't do coins. It's just all, you just play on it.
Yeah, they're not the same anymore.
It's not quite the same, but some of the games are the same.
Whatever. We'll get off
So
your lawn, old man. I'm sorry.
Yeah, exactly. Get off my lawn. It's so much better to put a little quarter in there. It feels different. The game
sure
hits
it
you
does,
different.
True.
When you put a quarter in, not slide a card or anything like that. But yeah, the wonders were. It's odd how well she knew Ellie too. I mean, because you see moments where they're building up to that kiss. It's like when they're on the escalator. I thought it was interesting if they had one of those like rom-com moments, like when the girl trips and falls in the arms of a good-looking guy who she's going to fall in love with. It was one of those moments that I almost rolled my eyes at it, but I'm like, this kind of makes sense because that's kind of what this whole episode is. I mean, even as I'm watching the episode for the first time, I'm already getting it. I'm like, this is a first date. This is their falling in love moment in all the rom-coms, so it kind of makes sense. And there's little looks to go back and forth between them at various points in the episode. I was like, okay, this all makes perfect sense because I knew about Riley, I knew their relationship, so I knew what it was building up to. But I mean, the wonder is, it's amazing how well Riley knew her. First, it was the escalators, which obviously wasn't planned. She's just like, sure, this could be the first wonder, whatever. Even Riley seemed kind of shocked that she was so blown away by something so simple. But then it was like the arcade. It's like they had talked about the video games and stuff like that. She was so blown away by that. Then it was the carousel. Which I was thinking to myself, I'm just like, it's so weird to think that this girl would be so blown away by a carousel. They're so archaic to us. not
I don't think
a roller coaster or something like that, but for her, this is high art. This is like she even says in the episode, she's like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. And I'm like, really?
I don't think
you're living in.
I don't think they have those in the military school, so maybe not.
Probably not. Yeah. But yeah, let's talk about that scene like at the beginning of the flashback too. She's in military school. She gets in trouble. I kind of like that the guy said, "Look, I can throw you in the hole. I can punish you again, but it's not going to do any good. It doesn't change what you do." He was like, "So I'm just going to be honest with you. You're so." I like how he said, "You're so smart. You're stupid." Yeah, I think that about my kids all the time. I'm like, "You guys are so insanely smart, but you're so insanely stupid all at the same time." It's like, I hope you guys get your wisdom. But
was that a Will Smith line from My Robot? It's like, "You are the dumbest smart person I've ever met."
But I kind of like the fact that he gave her kind of a choice. He was like, "You can continue to act like an asshole and you can be one of the underlings for the rest of your life, or you can turn this smart energy you have and focus it on something that's going to help you become something. You can either give the girl that you fought with orders, or she can be the one giving you orders. It's up to you where you're going to be, who you're going to be." And I thought that was an interesting moment because it seemed like that's the first time in her life where anybody has ever just been like, I'm going to lay the path before you and you decide to take them, instead of just kind of being forced either by circumstance or by other people to kind of walk one path or the other. It seemed like that would have been a good thing for her, because early on in the episode, when she first gets to the mall with Riley, there's conversation back and forth between who's the good guys, Fedra or Firefly. And they even start throwing barbs back and forth with each other about, oh, that's just propaganda, blowing up this, doing that. There were those interesting little barbs back and forth that caused a little bit of tension. There was a little hint of tension between them about that, because it's pretty clear that while Riley is completely sold on the idea of the Fireflies, that the conversation that Ellie had with her commander has kind of led her to believe that maybe Fedra is the way to go if I want to go anywhere in this crazy world. So initially there was some tension between that. Did you guys get that as well?
Plays into that dynamic between the two of them. I mean, they're on two sides of not really a war, but like a conflict at least.
Yeah.
So,
I actually really liked it. I thought it gave them an interesting dynamic early in the episode. Because, like I said, knowing what's going to end up happening between them at some point anyway, I was just like, again, it was very interesting to kind of watch things unfold because they weren't just both teenagers that were existing in this craziness. They were both coming from, there was this political ideology in its early forms that was kind of being a little bit of a barrier between the two. And I thought it was interesting to watch them grow through that to what would eventually become this momentary romance that they would be able to enjoy, that they would get through that. A bit of a lesson for all of us in real life to not be so wrapped up in the stupid bullshit and maybe try to find reasons to be friends. But
and also the Easter egg on the guy's keys, there was the paw print for the Naughty Dog logo. The company.
You know what? I noticed they focused on his keys, and I kind of glanced at him. I was like, I don't know why, but okay. But
it was the angle. I saw it, and I didn't know. I was like, wait, what's the paw print? I don't know why it went right over my head. I'm like, oh, Naughty Dog, who made the game, the paw print on the logo. I was like, oh, haha, funny.
Well, you also saw the picture of his family on his desk.
Mhm.
Yeah,
that she was looking at as well.
I thought that was gonna be something. I don't know why. Like she looked. I wonder if it's like one of those. He's not in there yet, and she looks at it like, well, I'm gonna use that later. Like, hey, you have a wife and kid. Like, quit being a dick to me. I don't know, but didn't really do anything like that. Just kind of annoyed. He's like, what the hell? Just turns it back. I don't know.
I thought it was maybe a moment to humanize him a little bit, so that way when he does look at her and say, "Hey, I want to do something that's going to help you realize your full self," instead of just throwing you in the hole again, because doing it over and over again is not obviously changing anything. So I'm going to be different. I'm just going to be honest and straight up with you. So I thought maybe it humanized him a little bit before he gives that spiel that he did. That was actually very, very good.
And it shocked Ellie because she's like, "That's it." He's like, "Yeah, that's it." Because he was like, "Yeah." I'm like, what?
Everything.
It was even kind enough to give her the Walkman back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it looked like he thought about it for a minute. He's like, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to go ahead and let her know that I want to try to be on her side with this. So I'm going to give her the Walkman back. So hopefully the words that I said will actually sink in a little deeper to her. They will get through the thicker parts of her skull and wire themselves into her brain so that way she makes better decisions. She starts to think about the future.
That guy might also be one of those, like, he didn't want to say it, but he probably didn't like Bethany either. He probably wanted to punch her in her face a few times. So
I would imagine she does not have a lot of friends.
No, probably not.
No.
That's why he said all the Bethany's of the world. I'm like, yeah, I know where you're coming from, man. Like he knows who that Bethany person is. So
yeah, even in the apocalypse, there's going to be some mean girls. So there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah,
there's going to be mean girls everywhere you go. That's just life.
Yeah, the one
apocalypse or not.
The one Riley punched. Fuck Carol. Screw Carol, whoever she is.
Right.
But
girls everywhere.
Yeah. But as she goes to give, she takes Ellie back into the taco stand that she decided to make her little apartment to give her this book, the pun book.
Yes,
another throwback, that same pun book. And while they're there talking, they're going through some of these jokes. She finds obviously the stuff that she's been watching out for the Fireflies, these pipe bombs and other things they're going to use to cause chaos. And there becomes where this whole thing kind of becomes a little bit of a blow between the two of them. She thinks that she thought that she was just down there having fun with Riley, that Riley found this place to share with her. But in reality, this was a place that she was stationed at. She was put there to watch these supplies. And she gets pretty pissed off and decides to turn around and bounce. She doesn't want to be a part of this Firefly thing. Riley, I think, tries to kind of explain it a little bit, but probably doesn't really know how. I mean, her being very new to the Firefly thing probably doesn't really know how to put it in words to try to explain it to Ellie. But I mean, what did you guys think of that interaction where Ellie just she gets frustrated that what she thought was just two friends hanging out, having a good time together. She finds out that she thinks there's this ulterior motive. I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, Ellie reacts like a typical teenager would to a conflict like that. I mean, I think it really shows that they're still teenagers in a way. I mean, I don't know. I know some adults would storm off in the same fashion. Don't get me wrong. But it's the storming off and not willing to talk about it because you're all of a sudden overwhelmed. You just have these really overwhelming positive emotions. And then it's like taking a step off the edge and you just fell into these negative emotions. And when you're a teenage girl and your emotions shift like that, you're going to react in a pretty crazy way. And I mean, I think her storming off without, she had just had this whole thing and she had missed her friend and they'd been friends for so long, and just to turn around and give that up like that, it just felt very authentic of the teenage girl experience from my perspective. as a former teenage girl.
Well, I don't have experience about that, but Benny, a teenage girl, has stormed off from me, so I mean, whatever. I don't understand what I did wrong, because I am a joy to be around.
Yeah, but
Without pipe bombs.
Yeah. I thought that whole interaction was interesting, especially the way it ended, because as she's getting ready to take off, she kind of has a change of heart. And I don't know if it was the fact that she does have this affection towards Riley, or if she doesn't want to let the friendship go or whatever. I mean, because actually, I'm probably skipping ahead a little bit. At this point, as she's leaving, Riley had already told her that she was going to be leaving the next day, right?
Then she told her, like, well, the whole thing was because she's like, well, I'm actually leaving, so.
Yeah,
so that was her last chance to maybe see her. So maybe she thought, well, damn it, I need to go back and say something.
Yeah, that showed to me kind of this moment where she switches from being this emotionally overreactive teenager to her being pretty pragmatic about the whole thing and saying, well, I don't know what the future brings in this crazy world. I don't want it to end like this. So even if it is just like a shake hands and go separate ways, I don't want it to end with anger. So turns around and goes back. And of course, on the way back, we get that little heart-stopping moment where she hears the screams, rolls into the Halloween store thing, and she's got to save Riley, and it's actually some Halloween decorations making the screaming noises.
that was so awesome.
A little bit of a foreshadow. But
I thought, oh damn, we're doing it already. Shit.
Right.
But I don't know if in that moment, I don't know if Riley, who was actually just kind of sitting on the ground up against one of the display cases, she very nonchalantly goes, surprise.
Right.
that was kind of funny.
Yeah.
I was like, that's a pretty cool reaction to see her returning. But
I don't know if that worked.
Yeah, I don't know if she thought that would bring her back, or if she was just kind of trying to react really cool to the fact that she came back. Like, I don't want to act like I'm surprised. I just want to be, oh, yeah, I'm so confident. I totally knew you were going to come back. I don't know. What did you think about that?
I mean, maybe Riley also being a teenage girl, maybe she was, because she was sitting on the ground. She seemed pretty upset too, but she was just kind of like, well, what do I do now? I mean, because she's obviously not going back to the Federal military school. She's with the Fireflies. That she said it's where she'd been kind of camping out. So she's kind of like, well, now I'm sat here with all this stuff that, well, I got through most of it to show her, but didn't get to show her the best part, which was the Halloween store. So probably glad she came back, but she was still probably wallowing in her grief with Ellie just storming off and knocking the trash can over.
Yeah, I've been forgetting to look at some of the pictures that I pulled up for this. Yeah, I love the shot of them walking into the mall. Like I said, this amazement that this girl must have got from seeing something so grand and spectacular and bright and well, for the world they're living in, very bright. I really love kind of the reaction as because like when I couldn't find the screen grab of it, and HBO doesn't let me take screen grabs anymore, but when she's like tapping her flashlight, trying to get it to work, and the lights all come on in front of her, that look of wonder on her face was fantastic. Because one of the things that I've really liked about her portrayal of the character is how she is amazed by these things that are simple to us, like talking to Joel a couple episodes ago about flying in the air when they see the wreckage of the airplane.
Yeah.
Or something simple like I read about one of these video games where this girl eats you that throws up your bones, and it's like she's so amazed by stuff to us. It's like 30 or 40 years old. It's so crazy.
She probably never did get to actually play Mortal Kombat 2. So because she did say like, oh, what do I do? And I love that she said, just mash the buttons. I'm like, that's actually
accurate.
That is true.
They call them button smashers. Some of these games.
Yeah, just like use the stick, move, and she's like, oh shit, okay, get into it. Like it's very easy to get into.
Yeah, I also love how when they turn on she turns on the light, they roll up to the arcade and she looks at it, she goes, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. This is the best thing that's ever happened to me, or something like that.
Oh, hell yeah, the arcade. Yeah.
I thought that was really cool, because I was just like, boy, you're living in a crazy world. This is the best thing you've ever seen. But
to be fair, in some of the other Easter eggs of the stores that we see in this mall, when they were on the carousel, behind them, first of all, was a Hallmark store, which hilarious. This could maybe be a Hallmark. Yeah, I love that shot. I was like, get that shot of like the way they look at each other. It's really nice. There's a Hallmark store back there. I'm like, well, this could almost be Hallmarky, but not quite. There's a CVS back there, which that sucks. And then the one behind the carousel I noticed was a GameStop. Which
I saw that too.
Even more funny, because I'm like, well, that means canonically, and this is also, the world ended in 2003. They were still very much putting out those Game Informer magazines. So there's no reason to think that Ellie never came across one of those Game Informer magazines and probably saw all this stuff about these video games. And, unfortunately never got to actually play them. So when she just saw that whole arcade lit up, it's like, when she first saw the mall get turned on, she's just like, oh my God. Like, which one do we play first? After you break into the change machine, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which one of us has ever wanted to break into a change machine and take all that money and turn it back into more video games?
Right. She had the bucket ready too.
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely would have done that if I had a chance at 14 or 15 years old.
Oh, yeah.
But I also love the idea that they were like drinking the guy's alcohol.
That was fun.
Again,
Right.
there was some coming of age stuff about this episode that I really appreciated, because I mean, 14-year-old taking their first drink of some hard liquor, been there, you know.
Yeah.
And I also thought it was funny, like the reaction that Riley obviously kind of struggled with drinking this stuff, and then when she takes a drink, she tries to play the badass. You can tell that it's not really her cup of tea.
Yeah, it's great.
She's like, yeah, it's great. I thought that was a really funny moment. Very, very endearing to both the characters. I mean, I don't know. Were you guys amused by that the way I was?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like moments between, you know, Joel and Ellie always make me smile. It's like the moments between Riley and Ellie made me smile too. It was great. Especially it's apocalypse. Fuck it. There's no rules. Why not? Have a drink.
There's a lot of great like human connection in this series so far.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
yeah, that's what it's about.
Early on, I mean, because you feel it early on with Tess and Joel, even though you don't really get them for the first 2 episodes, but you can feel that there's a connection there. And then obviously between Joel and Ellie, you know, the stuff with Frank and Bill was fantastic. It's one of my favorite episodes of the series so far. And then obviously the stuff with her and Riley in this episode. I hope we're going to get a little bit more fleshing out of Joel and Tommy's relationship a little more. I mean, there's only 2 episodes left of this? 3?
Yeah, well, I mean, that is also part of what the second game's for, because they go back to Jackson, and then there's 5 years between that and the first game and second game, so they've been living there for the last 5 years. There's more of Tommy and 2 as well. So I mean, we still got to find the Fireflies. That's our goal here.
Yeah.
So,
well, let me ask you this: you've played both the games, 1 and 2. In the games, are they any closer to using Ellie to find a cure for this fungus thing?
Yeah, now that I think,
without spoiling too much,
yeah, no,
different things, but you know,
because I was thinking like my bet was that we were gonna maybe, because I knew it was gonna be the DLC, but I didn't know if it was gonna be the whole episode or maybe half of it. Because it started off with, you know, leaving where we left Joel and Ellie last time, with him being injured, and it looks just like the house too, like the little garage she pulled him into. And I was trying to like feel out where it was, and I thought maybe we'd see Troy Baker, because I know he's coming.
Yeah.
Because I mean, they weren't. Trust me, those guys that attacked them weren't really just random guys. That will come back to bite you in the ass later. So, but. I mean, now that we saw him, he's coming in the next episode. I'm like, oh shit. But it's David. And if you know, I won't spoil it, but if you know who David is, holy shit, hold on to your hats. Because, yeah. So I'm thinking, well, that's really the next big thing. And then it jumps to spring when they get to where the Fireflies are. So I think we're pretty, I'm just trying to feel it out. I'm like, I think we're just about right where we need to be. This next part might be them dealing with David's group. And I mean, it's a finale episode, so it might be longer. So we might get more than an hour. So you got more to pack in there for the ending. So I think the ending will be the, you know, finding the Fireflies and getting to the cure part and going back home and seeing little brother Tommy.
Yeah. And then obviously at some point while they're frolicking in the mall, they end up waking up one of these infected guys. Here's one of the things I don't get. First off, I love this visual. This is one of the, we saw like in the first or second episode, the one that Tess and Joel find, where he's all kind of dried up and exploded up against the wall. This is obviously a guy who's on the way to that, but he ends up still being very much active and waking up, and ends up chasing down the 2 and kind of hassling them. One thing I don't get about this is, how did he know they were there? Because I didn't see them stepping on any of the vines, the tentacles that grow out. So did he hear them or what? Because it seems like, because when Joel was talking about when he was walking to the Capitol, they end up running into the clickers. He smashes that one tendril that he had found. He said it's bone dry. It's been dead for a while. But he said if you step on these things, that's how they know where you're at. But I didn't see them stepping on any. So did the guy hear them or what? Because they weren't being quiet, but at the same time, I don't know how into it this guy was. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, whenever you think about fungus like this, I mean, what do you? The biggest thing in a forest, and you may not even see it. The biggest thing in a forest probably is a fungus. It's probably everywhere, and you don't even realize it's there. So maybe they did. I don't know. There could have been something they ran across and he noticed, but he's also not fully a clicker. I think that's a runner where it's like the bridge between an infected and a clicker. So he's still got his eyes. He might have his ears, even though he's kind of looking like a weird Van Gogh there. He's got a big thing on the side of his missing an ear. I mean, yeah, if it's always been dark and just probably for the most part silent in there, he might have just at least seen the lights come on or heard it and something kind of, all the noise they're making too. It could have been reverberating the walls, and that could have been moving the.
Because my thought is, sure, to do all this, Riley obviously had to turn on all the electricity,
test
things out, and she had to have made some noise busting open the coin machine before. She said she did that the day before. That wouldn't have been quiet. But my thought is they're playing music, which Riley did not have before, because it was Ellie's tape.
Oh, the
Walkman.
Yeah, there might have been, but they're
probably playing some Etta James.
There probably wasn't music, and she probably blared it louder than if she had music before. It's probably blaring much louder than it would have been before to set the mood, I suppose. That would be my thought.
And it is like how blind people navigate. Like you feel the vibration or something, so it may have like reverberated off the wall and all the fungus that's growing on the walls.
I just was also sort of confused with how Riley didn't know that he was there.
Yeah, that's the only thing where I was like, you didn't check that part of the store?
That's a bit of a continuity error for me a little
I
bit.
thought that too, because it occurred to me that if the equipment that the Fireflies use is there, that she is not the only Firefly that's been through that place.
Right.
Yeah.
So I would imagine that the Fireflies, as they found the place, were probably kind of like, maybe we should kind of clear this building and make sure, at least that there's no infected, specifically that there's no Fedra, since that's the other big enemy that they have. Or at least that they would, secure the place to make sure they at least knew all the entrances and exits so that they could at least try to watch the place.
Unless that was like a new person, like somebody who had tried to sneak in there for shelter, looting, whatever, after it had been gone through.
Yeah, how fast that stuff grows, but I don't know. Maybe the Fireflies do suck. I don't know.
Well, Riley does mention that it gets everybody differently. So it's like if you and I both get it at the same time, like they did, like you might last a day before you fully turn, whereas I might last a few hours.
I mean, they do mention at the end. Riley holds her hand and says whether it's the next 2 hours or next 2 days. I think they mentioned in the game too when they first find out Ellie's infected. She shows them like, look, this was like 3 weeks, and they're like, bullshit. Everybody turns within like 2 days. I'm like, so it's probably a window of it. It could vary. But
this guy obviously wakes up and then starts to make his way towards the pair. And right after their kiss and their little romantic moment when they're trying to figure out how to move forward, the two of them is when they hear this guy starting to make his way to them. And then, of course, he attacks. I wish I had some better pictures of the fight, but I mean, they do fight him off really well. I was wondering, would it have been better to have seen them get bitten? Because I was watching the fight scene pretty closely, and you never see them actually get bitten. It's like after Ellie drives the knife into the guy's skull and puts him down for good after he was shot several times by Riley. That's when then Riley notices that Ellie had been bitten, and then to try to maybe assuage her pain a little bit, she holds up her hand and shows that she too was bitten. But you never actually see it happen in the fight. Would it have been more dramatic to have seen that bite happen during the scuffle, or do you kind of like the way that it was presented in this?
I think that when Riley was fending off,
I think she does kind of. I tried to watch it again.
She went like that with her hands. I think you see when the bite could have occurred, but not the
Ellie's
exact moment. Like you see Ellie, shielding. You see Riley shielding. I mean, you don't see the actual bite, but you see the positions in which they were most likely bit, which is better than had they not been in the position to be bit where they were bit at all. But also, have we actually? I mean, I'm trying to think now. Who have we actually seen be like bit on screen?
I mean, because you don't see Tess.
With Tess, they do a weird making out thing.
Well, she had already been.
She had been bit at that point.
But we didn't see that, right? We never saw.
We didn't see that, and then.
I mean, you got to assume some of those people from the Casey.
Oh well, I mean, we see
with the bloater and
face.
Some people definitely got. Well, I guess what's her
We
face.
saw what's her face get.
Well, and
devoured
Kathleen
by
got
the
jumped
yeah,
on,
that's
yeah,
her name. Yeah,
true.
Okay.
You don't get a good look at her getting bit, but you
No.
assume that if she didn't get bit, she got tore apart pretty good. So.
Yeah, I mean, you see people torn apart for sure, but I don't.
Yeah, we didn't see Sam get bit either.
Right, I'm just trying to remember somebody getting bit as like a.
Well, if you want to, I guess if you want to die in a video game, you see it pretty damn well.
I'm
Clicker
sure
will
you
grab
do.
your neck, and you see like the tendons and shit come out of its. I mean, Jesus.
I'm sure you. I'm just saying in the show, I'm trying to think of like a specific instance in where we directly see just a bite, not like an attack full on,
and not like a weird makeout moment.
Or a weird makeout moment, or pulling the head apart off of her body.
Awesome.
That was cool. But
Cool.
I don't.
That is a death. Like I said, they put their fingers like in your mouth and they pull your fucking skull apart. It's insane. Yeah. I mean, maybe it's just for kind of, dramatic effect, like reveal later. Sometimes it's, because like Walking Dead, for example, kind of does both. Like you'll see, it's like you kind of hope they don't, and you see them get bit, and you're like, God damn it! And sometimes they don't reveal it until later. You don't realize that it happened, and it may also. I'm thinking they got to think when they write this thing. There are people that have played the game that know what happened, and there's people that haven't had any experience with this game at all. So I mean, but even then, Ellie gets bit. If you maybe don't realize that's the moment she got bit, but also Riley. So it might just be more for the dramatic reveal, and it may also just play into the fact that when your adrenaline's going, like you're not even you won't even notice it happening. You're thinking about it because she looks at her like oh shit, because Ellie's like, oh my god, like she's happy. She's like, oh shit, look what I did. I got I got him, and and that's when she just has that 180 where she's just freaking out, like trying to
do whatever
stop her arm from like bleeding. Yeah, I was like, I watched it twice. Maybe because I tried to look too. I was like, maybe because they saw Riley kind of go like that to stop it, and she got bit like right on the hand. I don't know. Ellie tussled around quite a bit, so I don't know. Who knows?
Well, and at one point when the guy tackles her, they kind of get all those stuff kind of fall on top.
It's like, well, I was about to say, was that her that fell into the display?
Yeah.
So yeah, that could have also been what it was.
Yeah, but again, the scene after that, they've dealt with the infected guy. They've taken him out, and now they're kind of talking about what happens now. So after Ellie kind of like comes back down to earth a little bit, they start talking about what happens now, and I love how Riley just kind of says, "Well, we've got two options," and she kind of holds the gun up and says, "We take the easy way out. It's painless and quick." She's like, and she kind of says, and this is where it kind of like alludes back to the game a little bit. I think you'd be able to tell me more about this. She says, we just kind of ride this out and see where it goes. I mean, let's have, if this is going to be our last experience, let's have it together, which I thought was kind of awesome. I mean, the idea of just like, let's go off into madness together. Yeah.
Let's still just keep whatever time we still have with one another until the end. I think I keep going back to Walking Dead because I'm like, even in the last, I mean, it was probably one of the very, very last episodes. Aaron's character says that too when he was talking about Eric. So many times he's like, I think he said he knew him before the apocalypse, and Eric kept asking him out, and he kept saying no. And he said eventually we dated, and he's like, but because we all know what happened to him. Sorry, you haven't been that far. Sorry, spoilers. You're gonna forget the name, isn't it?
Yeah, it's gonna be gone.
I know. I'm like, that's. You're talking like 7-8 seasons in, when you meet them. But he says like, my only regret is I wish I could have taken back some of those no's and said yes sooner, so that I could have had that much more time with him, when it all came to an end, unfortunately. So, that's part of what it is. Like you said, they just want to have, now that they know this is really going to be the end, not just inconveniently having to move to a different QZ in a different state. Now, I mean, again, now they've both confirmed they both feel the same way. It's like, well, at least we still have, what was it, Casablanca? We'll always have Paris. So,
yeah.
To put that spin on it.
We'll always have them all.
Yeah, we'll always have them all. Exactly. We'll always have Mortal Kombat.
Right.
I'll never be able to throw up anybody's bones in a video game ever again.
All right. I wish I knew how to quit you.
Well, yeah, the episode had an interesting ending to me, too, because I was watching again today as I was getting the stream together, and we never actually see the ending of all this, which I thought was kind of intriguing. It's like the episode ends. There, they have the. I think that was when the cover of the Pearl Jam song plays, but we have this in. We never really see what happens to Riley. We assume that either she turned or that right before she turned, that Ellie goes ahead and kills her so that she would die as herself and not as an infected. But I feel like the fact that we didn't exactly see exactly the end of it all is probably something significant that we're going to revisit this moment at some point in the next episode or two. I mean, did you guys get that idea?
I think so. That's kind of what I was talking about a little bit earlier. It's like we don't know what actually happened to Riley. I mean, obviously she died one way or another.
The Walking Dead logic, we didn't see a body.
Right. I mean, it's not, I don't know. I think that knowing that going forward with the things that we'll see Ellie do may make more sense in a way, especially if you're someone who hasn't played the game or known any of this beforehand. And even looking back, it makes things make more sense.
Yeah, it's like we understand Joel right from the very beginning. First episode, he loses his daughter, Mm-hmm. See, then you see 20 years of an apocalypse, how he ends up. And then now we've seen it with Ellie, like, what she had gone through even at a much younger age, probably Sarah's age for that matter. Jeez. Yeah. Experiencing the loss of somebody she cared about as well. And my thought was, I'm like, I bet you she still has that picture. Like, she has to still have that, she's like, well, if you want that one, you can keep it. Mm-hmm. Because it was framed as like, she goes to open that door and she kind of hesitates. And then like in her mind, she flashes through that memory of Riley. Because like they said at the bonus at the end, they're like, well, she's thinking about Riley in this situation. Like,
Riley didn't take the
Riley didn't give up on her. Or on the two of them. So now with the person that Ellie cares about most right now is Joel. So she's like, it's the same thing of like, I'm not giving up on you, even though he told her to leave. Mm-hmm. And he's in, if she, because she doesn't know, I mean, we know, but she doesn't know, like, if he's going to die, she's like, well, at least we'll still have however much time as we can with each other. I even noticed too, like when she goes up the stairs, I mean, I don't know if Joel knew she was going to leave or not, but you see, there was like a tear, like a subtle tear that went down his cheek when she ran up the stairs, then the first part of the episode. But it was nice, like when she came back, and then you see him actually like hold on to her hand, because he realized, oh, even though I told her to leave, she stuck by him, and God had to stitch that gash of a wound up, man. Good Lord.
Yeah, that was a pretty cool visual.
that's always just like, Jesus, you couldn't have found. Did you save that bottle of alcohol, Ellie? That only happened like 3 weeks ago. I know you didn't drink that whole thing by yourself. Damn it, you could at least pour a little on there and give him a couple swigs. Jesus, help the man out.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, I mean, that was his fear. That was one of the reasons why he wanted Tommy to take her to Colorado in the first place. Is he didn't think he kind of saw this coming. That if I run into this situation, I'm worried that one of these because I'm getting a little bit long in the tooth because I'm a little beat up. I'm not the man that I once was when this whole thing first started. That if I come across a situation like this, I won't be able to protect her in the way that she needs protected. And this was kind of his biggest fear, was her being out there in the wilderness alone. Because at this point, he's completely sold on what Tess had told him. Like, she could be the key to stopping all this shit. Like, she could be the first important step towards getting back what we once had before all this happened. And while it may not happen in our lifetime, we owe it to the future of humanity to try to give this a chance. And so he's completely bought in on Tess's idea. And that's one of the reasons. And on top of that, one of the things I didn't realize when I was watching the show also is that how old was his daughter in the first episode when she died?
13.
Right about Ellie's age.
That's what I'm saying.
He's kind of picking up a little, in a manner of speaking, kind of picking up where he left off with his daughter. He's able to find a girl of that same age to be the protector, to be the father figure, and that's probably something that has kind of worked its way into his psyche over the course of several months that they've been doing it in universe time. But over the course of these 7 episodes, he's kind of like, I'm getting a second chance to do this from where I lost it. I feel compelled to do this because maybe in a way I can kind of save my daughter internally, save what's good about this 14-year-old girl, as well as potentially getting rid of this whole this whole fungus thing that's caused a lot of chaos all over the world.
Well, it's like when he walks out of that, I think out of the bar when he talked to Tommy, and he looked out in that crowd and he thought he saw that woman that looked like his daughter, or who could have been his daughter, and then he sees that she has a daughter of her own too, and it's like that could have, because if Sarah had lived, she'd be in her like early 30s by that point, right? She'd be like 33. She very well could have had her own daughter of a few years too, and that's something else that he didn't get a chance to do. So, yeah,
but I am curious as to exactly what happened to Riley after all that stuff, because it does eventually cut back, because this flashback kind of takes place in the moment that Ellie's trying to decide whether to actually leave Joel there and head back to Tommy.
Could have played some Clash. Should I stay or should I go?
And when you cut back to her with her hand in the door, she makes that decision. She's like, "No, I'm not gonna leave," because she mentions a couple episodes ago, everybody that I care about leaves me or dies or something happens to them, and she kind of hits this moment where she's like, "I am not going to let that happen this time. I finally hit this point to where I'm not just going to accept this loss." It's like
because her one fear was being alone.
Yeah, she says that to Sam. So she's like, I'm not just going to accept this happening. I'm going to do whatever I can to make sure it doesn't happen. Finds the thread, starts to stitch Joel back up. She's like, no, if I have to sit here and work to make
hold your hand.
If I have to be the one to nurse you back to health so that, me and you can go down this crazy journey, continue down this crazy road together, then that's what I'm going to do.
Hopefully we'll get to see some giraffes, Joel.
Yeah, at some point.
God,
I got the monkeys.
Well, you do get the monkeys, but one of the most beautiful moments is in the spring, which I hope we see in the last episode, is the giraffes. They're just out roaming around, and you're on like a second or third story, and you can just sit there and just pet one of them. Like, it's so fucking cool. That little Jurassic Park moment where they're moving in herds. You can see them in the distance just roaming the city. It's really wild to see.
Yeah, but again, just a great episode all around. Again, not my favorite episode. I'm starting to kind of, like I said, I'm kind of feeling where American Werewolf New Jersey was kind of coming from with some of this. I do think there needs to be a little bit more of a balance of some of the actiony stuff with the story.
Well,
I don't mind having an episode that's less action and really character and dialogue driven. Like I said, my favorite episode of this series so far is Bill and Frank. That is some fantastic character work. Mm-hmm. It was so top notch. But
in the DLC, there really wasn't a lot. There was just obviously the one pivotal moment where she gets bit. So to be fair, there really wasn't going to be as much. But like I said, just trust me, more will come. And like I said, one man army Joel. That's all I will say. But that last episode is going to go off. Just trust me. If you don't want to trust me. I know. I'm pretty sure they're going to do what you do at the end of the game. So,
well, you've seen the trailer for episode 7, right?
Yes.
Okay. And
I saw Troy Baker.
Yes. So you know what's coming. Now, if you think we've got like what do we say, 3 episodes left? There's 9 episodes in the season, right?
2. So 8 and 9, right?
Yes,
this is 7,
8 and 9. So, do you think they make their way back to Tommy this season? Because there's only 2 episodes left. And there's a whole lot of shit that we know is still going to happen, because running into Troy Baker and his crew to the what's it, the Reverend, the preacher. What? His name. The guy who runs the group that they're inevitably going to run into. David, is that his name?
David, yeah.
But so there's that. That's going to suck up probably most of one episode. I have a feeling that's probably not going to be handled in just one episode. I am kind of wondering where they're actually going to leave this season at.
I don't know,
because is there some finality for this season, but still leaves a lot of things open? Where how do you see this ending right now?
I can tell you straight up what happens in the game. Not that it won't happen.
Well, it may end up ending differently in this season.
I know.
Season, rather.
But this has been a pretty faithful adaptation, so I don't want to just ruin it by telling you what happens. Literally, the last scene in the game, it is them finally walking back through the woods and they get up to this clearing, and you can see Jackson down there, and Ellie stops them for a second. They have this without trying to put it into context of what one man army back there just did. They have a conversation, and it does now that there's a second game. When 2013, when I played that game, that pissed me off so much. They have hey, I can't do it without saying the dialogue. It's kind of like Ellie asks Joel a question, and it's a pretty serious question, and he gives an answer, and she just kind of like, it's like she almost doesn't know if she believes it, but she just kind of goes, okay. It cuts to black right there and ends. There's it is like they find the very end is just you finally see Jackson again. It's just the last 2-3 minutes, and they have a back and forth, and she just says okay, and it cuts to black. I was like, what? What? It's right. Did they make it? What happened? What does that mean? I was like, Ellie, I'm like, damn it, I hate cliffhangers.
I bet the series is gonna end on a cliffhanger, so that we're waiting for the next.
Yes, but I mean,
we know they've already greenlit season 2, so we know it's coming.
I saw a TikTok. I'm like talking about another enemy that's in the second game. All I will say is it makes a bloater look like a bitch. I'm so excited. I hope they do it. I'm so excited for that infected. Oh, it's horrifying. If anyone,
do you think we get that like in the last episode, or is that something they save for season 2?
Oh, it's going to be season 2 for sure. I think it's about a little more than halfway through the second game. You finally see this particular infected. If you've seen it, I think it's called Society. If you've seen that old weird 80s horror movie with all the, they're not cannibals, but they're, is it called Society?
I've seen Chud.
I don't think it was that.
I am not the person.
If you know what I'm talking, just think of that. It's a nasty son of a bitch. I'll tell you what. It hasn't probably seen a light of day since 20 years ago. So let that sink in however you want.
I'll look into that one, but
look up the Rat King. I'll just tell you that it's called the Rat King, which is kind of based on a real thing. That's a horrifying enemy.
Yeah, but again, another fantastic episode that, again, great, not my favorite episode, but still great character work. Really does explain a lot about why Ellie is who she is. I mean, she's always been kind of a tough egg to crack, so to speak, but you get an idea as to why emotionally she is where she's at right now. And also going through this episode when she says things like, everybody I've ever loved or cared about has left me, that line resonates a lot differently after seeing this episode, because you realize how wrong Joel really was. He didn't know it. When he says you don't know what it's like to experience this loss, she actually kind of does. She's seen a lot of this crazy world, enough to break a lot of people, but she somehow is persevering through it. And the fact that she's so potentially important to maybe undoing it all and maybe getting some sense of normalcy back at some point in existence, that it's a really good episode. Again, great character work. I forget the name of the girl that plays Riley, but I mean, I really like her as the character. I thought she did a fantastic job. And one of the things that I see actors sometimes, even the good actors can have trouble doing this, is when you have to carry an entire episode or entire movie. I mean, like Tom Hanks in Castaway. I mean, it's one thing to be a good actor, but when you have nobody to act off of, or just one person to act off of, yeah, it's when you are really put out there to kind of carry it all. Her and Ellie, they do a fantastic job carrying the bulk of this entire episode. There was a lot of really great emotion. There, again, a bit of a coming of age thing, a little bit of a romance that starts to build, and that gut punch at the end where just as they're starting to grab this one part of humanity that you don't even know if it can exist anymore in that kind of a world, at least the way that it once did, they have it pulled from them right at the very end, in one of the most tragic ways you could have it done on screen. Again, just great work. I'm blown away by this entire series. The storytelling, the characters, the writing has all been so good. But again, I do want to see a little bit more of the action. I feel like there's some other subplot they could have put in here, like maybe dealt with a little bit of the Firefly stuff, because we haven't really gotten a lot about the Firefly since like the first or second episode.
That's how it is in the game.
I feel like they need to be built up a little bit more, because again, I don't think they're the good guys or the bad guys. I just think they're the other side of the coin from Fedra. I think they both obviously have their qualms about them that make them not likable, but at the same time, everybody's just kind of fighting for survival, so you get it. But I want to see them built up a little more. I feel like there could have been a bit of a Firefly plot line in here that would have maybe shown us a little bit more about, was it Marlene?
Yeah.
Or Marlene. I feel like they could have put a few things in there to maybe give me a little bit more about her, because we haven't seen her since the first episode. So
I mean, again, you really don't. You don't see her until the end again. So
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
feel
that is
like,
that goal you're trying to get towards. It's like, I mean, it's one dead end after another, which is unfortunate. Every time they hear about where the Fireflies are, and they're either dead or gone, you know. But we'll see her again. Don't worry.
yeah, I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of that in here, another subplot to kind of help push this episode along. But still, a great episode nonetheless. I mean, again, there hasn't been an episode of the show so far that I haven't really liked. I mean, this is not my most favorite episode, but it's still really, really good. But just because I would do some things differently doesn't mean they're not doing a great job with this series as a whole. I think it's been fantastic so far. I'm looking forward to seeing the whatever's going to come from the next episode. Yeah, this guy David, I've heard you talk about him. I've seen YouTube videos kind of explaining who he is.
Oh yeah.
This is gonna be kind of getting into where, like, what I think Walking Dead kind of rested itself on at some point is not so much the zombies, but the people. Mm-hmm. People can be a problem as well when all they're doing is what they have to do to survive. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. And yes, we'll be getting the guy who is the voice of Joel in the video games. We'll be getting him. We will be getting him, and then eventually, look, only 2 episodes left. We're going to be getting Aaron Johnson here as well, who's going to be playing what's her name?
Ashley Johnson.
Ashley Johnson. Yeah, I don't know why I got the name mixed up, but I mean, she'll be playing. Who did the voice of Ellie in the games is going to be playing Ellie's mom. So we'll be getting her at some point in the next couple episodes as well.
I have a feeling she'll be in the last one because, like I said, no shock, but Marlene we get to see again. Knowing that, I'm pretty sure we might see her in the last one. I almost said The Last of Us. Yeah, in the last episode, I'm pretty sure. Because that'd be the nice, like, you see it kind of come to a full, like, you know, obviously what happened to Ellie's mom. And again, without trying to spoil it, like the narratives and the exposition that comes out at the end, I'm pretty sure is we're gonna see that flashback. And I thought Troy Baker was gonna be David, which would have been funny, but I think I know who he seems like is like kind of right-hand guy, but I'm like, oh, I think I know which one. And if that's gonna be the case, there's gonna be a hilarious thing between Ellie and him. So I'm looking forward to that. And some of the shots from the next episode, some of the little beats of like, oh, when she shot the deer. I know this makes no sense to everybody except for me. Like when she shot the deer, you see the building burning. I'm like, oh yeah, this is about to go off.
Yeah, but I'm pretty excited about where the next couple episodes is going to go. I have a feeling that, and hearing you talk about it, we're going to see a little bit more action popping off these last couple episodes.
Yeah, someone put up the little, like I said, the conversation between the elderly couple that happens. What would kind of be this next part, but it already happened, so I don't know. It might. I showed you that scene. Like I said, it's a little more dark. It's. Yeah. Like I said, Joel putting a knife through someone's knee and then about popping their kneecap off their leg, just trying to find out where Ellie's at. Like, oh, Jesus. And he's like, smacking, like, hey, wake up, look at me. Show me on the map. I'm like, oh, Christ, Joel. Jesus. But hey, he's a man on the mission trying to find, this girl that he cares about. So.
Yeah, but I think that's a pretty good place to wrap it up. Again, not a whole lot to go into, but again, just great character work. I'm really excited to see what the next couple episodes is going to bring. Again, this season as a whole has just been a banger. I mean, it's been really, really good stuff. We did a video quite some time ago about why video games don't transition well to movies and to the visual medium. And one of the things that we talked about was how more often than not, the creators and the writers of the games aren't involved in creating and writing the stories for the film or the TV show. This has been the shining example of why that's important, because Druckmann and all these guys have been involved with
Greg Mazin
with putting this story together from the jump. And so yes, there's going to have to be some differences because the video games, the way you tell a story in the video game has got to be very different than the way you tell a story on screen. Yeah. But they've managed to do it in a way that to the best of my knowledge, my very limited knowledge about the game, has been very true to the spirit of what these characters are, their journey, what they experience, the world that they're existing in, everything that they're going through. And it's been a great representation of that. Yes, some differences, but you have to make some changes. Like, movies that are made from books are never exactly to the books, but different storytelling mediums, you got to change some things. But I think they've done a great job. And for people like you who have played the game, front to back more times than not, to go through this and to say, I really like this iteration of it, despite the differences, it's telling the story the right way, is actually why I was saying a long time ago, having these people that create these stories for the games have to be involved with the television show or the movie to make sure that you're getting to at least the base audience of the gamer, To say nothing about the casual fans of people like me who only played the game a few times here and there and aren't really seeped in the story to get so wrapped up in this thing and say, wow, this is some good shit. So yeah, again, great storytelling by these guys. And again, this is a guy, again, Mazer did Chernobyl.
Yeah.
And I love Chernobyl. That's one of my favorite limited series I've ever seen. I mean, I don't know if you've had a chance to watch it or not, but that is some good shit.
I put it on the watch list because I've heard you say nothing but good things about it. So it's in the watch list. So once we have Mandalorian coming, but I mean, once I get the chance to watch it, it's in there. So
yeah, it's some good shit. And like I said, and they're really tonally, they're really similar because
I can imagine that.
Once you get a chance to watch it, you will see that show, it's got those really dark gray tones that are very similar to what we're getting from the show. Just like the color palettes and everything are very similar. So, I mean, you're telling a story of this crazy, chaotic moment in time that, so yeah, I mean, it was kind of a match made in heaven. These two guys, this creator and this story, kind of a match made in heaven. It worked out great. But that seems like a pretty good place to start wrapping things up. Again, another fantastic episode. I'm really excited for what the next 2 episodes are going to bring. Like I said, this whole series so far has just been a banger. I'm really happy with it so far. Next 2 episodes are going to be pretty dope. Again, I do want to see a little bit more action, though. I get it. I get what American Werewolf.
I know I keep saying just fucking hold tight because trust me, it is. I mean, like I just showed you this movie the other day. Like Nick Frost in Hot Fuzz, it's about to go off. So
you ever jump through your gun screaming, "Ah!" Shooting
no, I'm not firing my gun in the air, gone, ah. It's not about proper action or shit.
But yeah, we'll obviously be talking about the next couple episodes the next few weeks. Also, don't forget on Thursday we'll start with episode 1 of The Mandalorian, which I'm going to watch tonight. Nice. Or tomorrow morning, maybe. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. It depends on let's see. It dropped today, right? Or tonight at midnight, or tonight at 3.
It might be. Yeah, it might be some early ass.
So I'll probably end up watching it tomorrow. I'm not staying up till 4 in the morning to watch this.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's this show's been pretty banging so far, and I'm really glad that they've done it the way they have. But thanks to my great co-host for coming to hang out with me tonight. I very much appreciate it. Tim Septum, thanks for coming to hang out with us tonight. What do you got going on? I see you've got your setup going on. It looks really good. I'm actually kind of envious.
Welcome to my office that I have been cleaning for the last 3 years to prepare for this. Yes, my setup is going. My computer is actually sitting over here on. It's beautiful. I made it.
I'm glad you can
myself.
see it. It's right there.
Right, yeah, it's over there.
Pick the thing up right there.
It's over there. But right now I am getting used to playing on what a friend of mine called an overpowered machine for what I'm using it for.
I'm kind of jealous. I am looking at it. I'm jealous.
I'm playing The Sims, and I'm getting used to playing The Sims
normally
in a high resolution. I cried. I'm not going to lie. I cried.
I can attest
the
to
first
that.
time I booted up The Sims because I was playing The Sims on a 10-year-old laptop with the graphics set to low. No shadows, no nothing. And now when the sun sets, you can see it setting through the windows. And if there's curtains, you can see the anyways.
You can see the little pores on the guy's skin. Oh my God.
Like it's crazy. But I will, once I've gotten more used to my whole setup, begin streaming The Sims. Not there yet. But
yeah, you need like 5 cases of like pop figures like I do around my room.
Just cover up the closet back there. I don't.
Yeah, just wall to wall.
Right. Yes, but I will be on either Twitch or YouTube. I haven't decided yet. Just at Tin Septum. You can find me there on Twitter as well for updates.
And for you, my hetero life mate Jeremy, what do you got going on, my friend?
Well, not that because I don't have $3 bajillion to spend on a fucking computer. I'm not saying I'd take part in a console war, whatever the fuck this thing even is. But I'm not saying I wouldn't like to have that. And I always forget, I don't have to have mouse and keyboard. I can play on a controller still. So you know what? Maybe having a.
Told you could use it.
I know, but I mean, I still you didn't go through all that crap to get a PS5 just to,
No, I know.
I'm just saying we didn't go through all that just to
right,
not use it. Because that's gonna longevity for next few years at least. I might still. I mean, if there's a 6, whatever, I might still try and get it, which will be in the distant year of the future, 2077 or something. Yes, I don't know. Maybe having something like that for myself eventually. But I forget I can play on controllers. But having something that powerful, I can at least still play stuff on and have, because I'm used to that. I've played on controller my whole life. So, Yeah, so I'm here. Roundabout back to that. I'm here Tuesdays, Thursdays, whatever days ends in a Y that we're doing shows. Like you said, Mandalorian comes out soon, so that's gonna be fun. So more Pedro Pascal on the way, which is always a good thing. The best stepdad in every universe, as we've come to find out.
Our whole channel is going to be about Pedro Pascal for most of the next like 10 months.
Right, that's okay. Just turns into a Pedro Pascal like simp page or something.
Right.
That's fine.
Get some fan edits going.
Oh man, don't even start me. Yeah. So when, like Frank said, we'll probably do more review esque type things, not necessarily news, because it's just going to be coming rapid fire down the tube for the next like 2 months probably. And also, like you said, I have YouTube and Twitch and Twitter. It's all the same name. I didn't put it up there, but whatever. You know the name. It's down there. I'll after this series is over, which I mean, I'd hate to say that right there. It's not in all caps though, just the G and T. But yeah. So I hate to say this series is almost over, but it doesn't have to be over, because I know you like that, because then I'll play through it again, and it'll be fun having the perspective of the show now. So maybe if no one's experienced it, I mean, come experience it with me. Shit, it still manages to make me a little bit emotional, which is good. Like the show has been doing too. So that, it's been a good thing if it still manages to do that.
I'm getting dehydrated from all this crying from the show.
I know, like I said, I watched Titanic. I can't stop the damn ship from. I just would just turn a little more, but it still gets me. And that's the thing that like I said, they keep that in mind. They know there are people that watch it that have played the game, and it's like they know what to expect, but not really. And like I said, Joel fell off the building and got impaled. That didn't happen. I was like, oh, did he make it? Oh no, he got stabbed. Shit. I even had oh shit. Oh, that's how. Okay, it still gets me, which is good. But then, like I said, I'll play through the second game. Which that'll be fun. So hopefully, if you come watch that, more perspective on maybe what season 2 will be, which I think, like Frank said, it might personally translate better to a show than as a game. I don't want to go on a rant about a certain character in that game, so watch for that. Yeah, and I got some streamy stuff to do maybe, but like I said, tying in D&D to Skyrim and Fallout. And with that acid reflux, I'm done. Jeez, I held that in just for that. My God, more carbonation, that'll help.
That'll help. As for me, you can find me here at least 3 days a week talking about Pedro Pascal, since that's pretty much the only thing going on in Hollywood at this point. We do only have 2 episodes left of this show, but Mandalorian's going to be kicking off later tonight, midnight on the West Coast, 3 a.m. our time. So we will be back here Thursday talking about episode 1 of Mandalorian, while he once again shepherds a young child across great space to whatever the hell awaits them.
To some organization that wants to take him away from him.
Yeah. Also, there is no update. I talked last night. I did a spontaneous live stream while I was going over some baseball cards last night, and some news started to break about Tom Sizemore. I don't know if you guys heard about that yet or not. Tom Sizemore did suffer a bad blood clot that got to his brain. He is in a coma in Los Angeles, and doctors have officially said that there is no chance of his recovery. So his family is making decisions for end of life and things like that. Those decisions were expected to be made today. I've been trying to watch some of the Hollywood Reporter. I've actually been checking it a couple of times over the course of the stream to see if anything breaks. Nothing has broken on that yet. So another very unfortunate situation. As I'm looking over it again, still no news, just that he is in a coma. But
now you got to watch Saving Private Ryan for sure.
Yeah.
Oh my God,
I haven't seen that one.
Great.
But unfortunately, no news on that yet. But we don't really imagine that's going to end very well. So definitely thoughts and prayers out to him and his family. That's very sad. If that happens at some point in the next 48 hours, we'll definitely talk about that on Thursday before we go into our Mandalorian review. But that should wrap it all up here for right now. Thank you guys so much for coming hang out with us. I appreciate Butterfly popping in right here towards the end. I appreciate you coming in, my friend. Same to you, BJ. Always good to see you here as well. Thank you guys for coming to hang out. We very much appreciate it. We will see you guys later on.